First of all, I'd like to thank Helen for inviting me to this occasion. It's not often I go to such a major events these days, being sort of semi-retired. And it's a great pleasure to be here to share this important occasion with Helen and her colleagues. I feel a bit of a fraud actually, because I have no connection really with seafaring, although Helen did start doing her fieldwork whilst she was doing her PhD. Unless, of course, you count, getting on the ferry across Lake Windermere, which takes all of 5 minutes as a voyage. My ancestors were actually sometimes involved in seafaring. My father's family, they were state-sponsored pirates during the Napoleonic era. And my mother's family arrived here by boat from the continent. But apart from that, I have almost no knowledge of and connections with seafaring. But I read the book very carefully, and I wasn't surprised that it's a remarkable book. And I use that word advisedly for several reasons. First of all, I think doing field work is always a challenge. Doing field work on a temporary total institution is more than a challenge. Being confined on a ship for between 2 and 6 weeks must be quite demanding, and yet, Helen volunteered to do this, to be confined, and it's uncomfortable, dangerous, noisy, the vibration of the ship, the movement of the ship. It's quite a demanding fieldwork situation. So I think it's quite remarkable that she gathers so much data, and so many occasions she would go off to all parts of the globe, South America, North America, and wherever, to collect data. It shows enormous tenacity and determination. Very impressive way of collecting fieldwork. Certainly I wouldn't volunteer to be incarcerated on a temporary total institution for any next time at all. Secondly, I think it's remarkable in another way, and that is that it's multi-sited, and it has parallels with her PhD, which was also multi-sited, and the way in which she makes connections between all the different parts and weaves them together is impressive. Not only that, but she she managed to do all this while she was actually doing other things. So in a sense, the seafarers whom she worked with on board ship, with whom she visited and stayed with when they were being recruited, and going as far as going to stay with their families and visit seafarers' families. I think all this shows an enormous sort of dedication and determination, tenacity to actually collect data from all these different sources and weave it together in a very impressive way, making sure that the connections, never losing sight of the connections between the different parts of the research. And again, this was visible, this sort of skill of putting data together was very visible in her PhD. And thirdly, it's remarkable for style and presentation. It's a very well organised book, very well organised research. It's engagingly easy to read, but above all, I love the photographs. The cover is brilliant. It conveys, the loneliness and isolation of seafaring. And then you've got 15 other illustrations, all of which are, or photographs, all of which are taken by Helen. And I think, that does also reflect the rapport she developed within her, in her field work, which couldn't have been easy in this situation, in these difficult situations where you've got, perhaps an authoritarian captain and in a very hierarchical, male-dominated environment. So I think, she used to be congratulated on achieving fantastic rapport, and this is reflected in the photographs, many of them. And it's always nice to see these photographs, a sort of human side of this sort of work. And it's reminiscent of Blauner, one of my favourite books as an undergraduate many years ago, and he has photographs. But I think it surpasses Blauner in terms of indicating the kind of work that people are doing and reflecting, Helen's observational skills. much more than it does in Blount, as well as surpassing it numerically. There's 15 as opposed to about 10, I think, in Blount, if I remember correctly. But it's always nice to see, and it's quite rare to see visual material, and it's central to the book, I think. It's really very good. So, to sum up, as it were, I think Helen's book should make a big splash. As the first person up, I can be the chief punster. Should make a big splash and lots of waves. Get those over with. It reflects great dedication to her craft of sociological researcher. And I'm reminded of the heroine of Laxdela saga. If you're ever only going to read one saga, read the Laxdela saga. It was written by a woman for women. And the hero is Una, and she's described in the Laxdela saga as the deep-minded one. And I think that's appropriate. Helen's the deep-minded one. Many congratulations on a brilliant book, and thank you for inviting me.